So now we're going to have a look at some single-use materials and how these behaviours have developed, looking at the psychological, social and infrastructural elements tied up with them. So drinking bottled water. Now the infrastructure has certainly changed significantly over the last 20 years. The use of plastics played a massive part in making drinking bottled water much easier because it's lighter and it's easier to carry. The expansion of shopping centres, supermarkets and convenience stores has meant that bottled water is much more readily available. And of course, the drinks industry has made bottled water more readily available as they've looked to address the decline in sugary drink sales. And of course, it's much more convenient to carry a disposable water bottle than a reusable water bottle because you don't need to carry it. In terms of the social drivers, there is a lot of status associated with drinking bottled water because it's a sign of a disposable income. And this has been exemplified in China recently because they now have an issue with disposable water bottles where there's been a burgeoning middle class who are now moving to drink bottled water. And the drinks industry have done a very good job of making bottled water a symbol of health. And there's lots of conformity and authority bias going on because actually it's uncomfortable for people to ask for free water when they're in somewhere where they should be spending money. And this was also exemplified by a 2008 study which found that 1 in 5 consumers were nervous about asking for tap water when dining out in London because they were asking for something free. And in terms of habits, obviously, the more that you buy a bottle, then the more that reinforces that behaviour. But in terms of when people choose to drink bottled water, it's very situational dependent. So people will do it when they're travelling. They'll leave their reusable water bottle behind and just buy bottled water. Or people will buy bottled water when they go to the gym. And of course, the unintended environmental impacts are all these single-use bottles. When we look at drinking coffee on the go, this is really a practice that has come about probably in the last 10 years. I can remember when drinking a coffee was about an instant cup of coffee at home or at work. But the proliferation of coffee shops on the UK high streets has completely changed all that because it's made available lots of different types of coffee. And of course, then the use of disposable coffee cup has made drinking on the go possible. And of course, it's very convenient and clean because you don't have to wash it or carry it. And of course, there are social drivers. There's a lot of status attached with drinking coffee on the go. It's a symbol of having a disposable income. It's a symbol of being part of the working culture. And it's also a symbol of a busy lifestyle because it demonstrates that people don't have time to sit down in a coffee shop and while away the time, that they're very busy, which feeds into our workaholic culture in the UK. And it's now really become a social norm. So across the board, people of all ages and demographics are drinking coffee on the go. And of course, the unintended environmental impacts of all of this are these disposable coffee cups. When we compare this to reusable coffee cups, we see that there's some clear infrastructural differences. You need a bag, you need a cup, you need to be able to clean your coffee cup. And of course, there's the leaking potential. And in terms of a habit, we need to remember our cup. And all this makes it quite inconvenient and messy. And in terms of it being a social driver, really it's still quite outside of what is normal drinking coffee on the go behaviour. So it means at the moment that actually using a reusable coffee cup is a value driven behaviour rather than something that's socially motivated. Now, when we look at recycling, there's a bit of a spoiler alert for anyone who thought that people do their recycling because they care about the environment. In a 2001 study, Barr found that most people that he interviewed were willing to recycle because it was a norm-based activity. It wasn't value-based. And because they had knowledge of recycling schemes and the logistical ease of things like curbside recycling. So this means that people do their household recycling because of the infrastructure that's available to them and the social norm that their neighbours are doing it. Now, you may be different and you may be doing it because of environmental reasons, but that means you're doing it because you're value-based. And we'll talk a bit more about value-based behaviours in a moment.